A person was curious about the Scandinavian diet, the traditional Scandinavian diet, and the gladiator diet. Now, I will go over the Scandinavian diet, the traditional Scandinavian diet. One might want to take into consideration that one of the reasons the Vikings were Vikings, raiders, is because of a lack of sufficient nourishment in the lands that they actually lived in. So they would obviously go get what they needed from other areas and trade also with like the Mediterranean region and the North African region and Turkey and places like that. Now, a traditional Scandinavian diet is actually quite healthful, but the fact is it's extremely seasonal. It's not at all unlike the Mediterranean diet. It's rich in fish, lean game meats, and root vegetables, whole grains, things of that nature, which makes it almost the exact same thing as the Mediterranean diet, except for the fact that it's extremely seasonal. Meaning in wintertime, you're left with winter vegetables, like cabbage and potatoes and things of that nature, which can lead to gaps in nutrition. And of course, meat in wintertime, you would have meat. The gladiator diet, the gladiators, what people need to understand, were slaves. Therefore, they they ate a lot of vegetable matter, a lot of soups made out of beans and barley. Beans and barley were the primary staples of the Roman gladiators' diet, and many slaves in the Mediterranean region. The website oldwayspt.org, which is from the originators of the original Mediterranean diet, they have traditional diets, the Latin American diet, the African heritage diet, the Asian diet, and the Mediterranean diet. Basically, what I think happened with Old Ways PT is they jumped on the boat of cashing in on minority interest, which I don't care because the fact of the matter is it has spread investigation into traditional diets. But you really have two primary diets there. You have a Mediterranean inspired diet, which includes, of course, the Latin America, which is Mediterranean inspired. The Latin American diet is not a pre-Columbian diet because it has Mediterranean influence with the cheeses and wine and different alcoholic beverages that were not present in pre-Columbian times. I mean, you did have certain types of beers and things of that nature in Mexico and regions of high civilization in Mesoamerica, but you did not have distilled liquors. You did not have wine per se or any of these things. Now, with the Asian and African heritage diets, these are more like Neolithic era farming diets without dairy. What one has to understand is in Asia and and Africa, there's not much dairy because there wasn't much desire for it, so to say. The African heritage diet is a little tricky in the sense, as is the Asian one, because they include India, which has dairy, in the Asian one, and they include North African regions in the African heritage diet, which are technically Mediterranean, places like Tunisia, Algeria. These places are not what one, or Egypt, for example, these are not what one thinks of when they think of Africa. When one thinks of Africa, they think of like Chad, Somalia, Ethiopia. So you have to understand that there's a bit of a mix up in these diets and a lot of overlap. Essentially, what one needs to take into consideration is that we do know now that overconsumption of high protein foods overstimulates mTOR and overstimulates certain pathways, metabolic pathways of aging and things of this nature, which cause you to prematurely age and can cause illness. Now, the high protein diets, these include things like, of course, fish, of course, meats, and basically, if it moves around, it's protein. If it comes from the ground, essentially, it's carbohydrate or plant matter. But what one needs to take into consideration is much research has been shown that plant proteins, such as nuts, seeds, beans, whole grains, these things actually are much healthier than animal-based proteins. Now, the beauty of the modern world is we do not live in we don't have scarce seasonal resources. Meaning in the wintertime, I can buy oranges. In the wintertime, I can have tomatoes. We also have like greenhouses and things of this nature, which allows us to have a more nutritional diet year round. As with supplementation, we have supplementation now that in the classical period and the pre-classical period and the Neolithic era, there was no genuine supplementation. You couldn't supplement with isolated vitamins, isolated amino acids, isolated anything. So what we have now is we have the ability to enrich our diet through the application of knowledge that we did not have and the application of industries that did not exist yet. But essentially, what I would recommend is people explore vegetarianism or veganism. And the reason why is because, and this is what one has to understand with dairy and meat and fish, these are not clean foods. There's this push for clean eating, clean eating, clean eating. These foods are not clean. They're rich with parasites, bacteria, and all sorts of nonsense. Now, a lot of people like to eat organic, but the problem with organic vegetables and organic fruits and nuts and whatever is you have to understand what these are fertilized with is animal waste and byproducts from slaughterhouses, which carry these bacteria, these viruses, and all this onto these foods. Now, this is what a lot of people essentially do not understand is they think, well, organic food is more nutritious than inorganic food. There's never been actually any genuine evidence to prove that. And it is actually detrimental. A lot of these organic waste products are very harmful to human life and life in general. But it's this naturalistic fallacy, this idea that supplementation is bad, organic food is good. These things lead to the health crisis that we see in the developed world because we've seen how can I put this? The developed world likes to trick itself into thinking that it's good to go back in time. It's good to live in these ways. Now, traditional diets are a good base, but ultimately the vegan diet, strategically supplemented, is the healthiest diet.